Trump's pick to be the next ambassador to the UK will need to learn the difference between this kind of football and this kind of football. Here's a hint. This kind of football in the UK is not called soccer. We just don't call it that. We call it football. It was certainly quite confusing for me when I first moved to this country. But Robert, a.k.a. Woody Johnson, owns the NFL team, the New York Jets. He was a top fundraiser for President Trump's campaign. It's been more than 5 months since the president first said Johnson would be his pick. For more now on this, I want to turn now to somebody who's actually done the job himself. Robert Tuttle served as US ambassador to the UK from 2005 to 2009. Ambassador, thank you so much for being with us. So just want to get your take on this. As someone who has done the job, what do you make of President Trump's choice?
Well, I know Woody, and I have high regard for him. I think it was an excellent choice for a couple of reasons. He has good leadership skills. He's very articulate. He's very personable. And most important, he's close to the president. And I think it's very important that the president, which he has done, nominated someone who is close to him, to our most important and very special ally in this very complicated world.
You know, I made a joke at the top about the difference between football and football. Obviously, he plays a different type of football, and soccer is such a huge part of British culture. But more importantly, in this sort of post-Brexit environment, what sort of challenges will Mr. Johnson have, do you think?
Well, I think the challenges of how Brexit works out, how it affects our relationship with the United Kingdom, I think that's what's most important. And there'll be other issues that come up that I'm sure we could talk about. NATO, many issues. And it's important to have someone there who has the ear of the president and also who can deal well with the people in the United Kingdom.
And you know, here's the thing. Donald Trump is still, I would say, a relatively controversial figure in the UK. There's been a lot of disagreement about whether or not he should be given a state visit. What will Mr. Johnson's role be in smoothing that over, sort of smoothing Donald Trump's image in the UK?
Well, I think, I know Woody, as I said earlier, he's so personable. I think he'll be out there talking about the positions of the United States. He'll be talking to the leaders in the United Kingdom. Plus, I think he'll be traveling around the country, speaking out in the press and the TV, as I did with I Ambassador. And I think that's very important. I think the people of the United Kingdom want to hear from the United States and want to hear the United States' opinions. I was there in a controversial time during the Iraq War. I'm not sure I changed any minds, but I think people appreciated having the ambassador out there speaking about America and America's positions.
You know, it's interesting because obviously Donald Trump values loyalty. I mean, I think that's probably one of his #1 criteria if you want to work with him or for him. You know, Mr. Johnson didn't initially support President Trump. He initially supported Jeb Bush very heavily. Obviously, he's a staunch Republican. He supported Jeb Bush. Donald Trump and Jeb Bush, as you remember, last year and the year before, were staunch rivals. From that perspective, what do you make of Donald Trump choosing Mr. Johnson?
Well, I think that once Jeb Bush retired from the campaign, that Woody Johnson went to work for Donald Trump, raised lots of money, was very articulate about Trump in his support, and very loyal to Trump. So I think that that's really what matters. There's lots of differences in primaries, but certainly he jumped on board with Donald Trump once Jeb Bush retired from the campaign.
And lastly, how will his move affect the Jets, do you think? He's going to have to give up day-to-day control.
I'm not an expert on, although I love watching NFL football, I'm not an expert. I'm sure knowing Woody,
I'm more of a soccer person myself than American football, so I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, he'll put some good people in there to run the team, and hopefully the team will be very successful. And who knows, maybe while he's ambassador, the Jets will come and play in the United Kingdom.